Morning, peeps. I'm back, and today I'm bored with talking about game week 38. What I want to talk to you about is the FIFA World Club Champs. Now, before you hang up, before you leave in disgust, I want to talk to you about a new rule that they've put in place that is absolutely fantastic. It For years and years and years in FPL, we've been complaining about the lack of a decent player base that we can pick from. All of us probably have got the same 20 players or variations of in our teams. The number of players we can pick from out of the whole FPL universe is very small, isn't it? Very small indeed. We've all got the same players basically. And it's been leading that way for the past like 10, 15 years. We've gradually been honing in, improving our skills, and now it's got to a point where basically any differential that you pick is a suboptimal pick. On any given week they might do well, but overall they are not the best players for a reason based on the current scoring that we have in FPL. But somebody peeps, who designed this World Club Champs fantasy has come up with an absolutely genius method of widening the potential player base. Now, for years we've come up with ideas that have been rubbish, haven't we? We've like adding an extra category for defensive midfielders or wing backs or centre backs, giving tackles or blocks points for that. But as people point out, if you did all that, it would no longer be FPL, would it? It would be complicated and confusing. But the FIFA World Club Champs have come up with a rule that keeps it pretty much the same, but widens the base considerably. And we'll go and have a look at it. We'll go and have a look at it now. Right, where are we? Where are we, peeps? This is the game here. 15 players, just like FPL. Pretty much the same, except you can do manual subs. So if one of your players that's playing gets 1 point, one of your subs hasn't yet played, you can bring him in for a player that got 1 point, like in the Champions League game. But anyway, we're going to have a look at this rule because it's genius, absolutely genius. I've better check you can see it first. Where are we? It's a long way down, a lot of rules. Here we go. Can you see it? Yeah, see, you can't. This is why I went and checked. Right, it's called the scouting bonus. But what it effectively is, if you pick a player that is under 5% owned and he scores 4 points or more in the match, like he gets an assist or a goal or a clean sheet and gets 4 points or more, then you get an extra 2 points. You get the extra 2 points because you've picked somebody that was owned by less than 5% of the population of managers. So in terms of FPL, that would be like picking a Kudos or a Jota or a Doku or somebody like that. Any player that's under 5% owned suddenly becomes more valuable because you are rewarded for picking a differential. Some of these players like Kudos, he's not as good as Bowen, is he, for fantasy, so nobody owns him. But if you give a player like that an extra 2 points because they're not owned by very many people, then suddenly those players become more interesting. Same for defenders in clubs, not the main defender. People like Colwell instead of Cucurella, for example, or one of those type of players, suddenly get more points for keeping a clean sheet than the attacking players do that are highly owned. Suddenly it brings them all into play. A lot more players are brought into play, and it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I put a post on it on Blue Sky, and some people said it's a problem because you could buy a player who then becomes over 5% and you don't get the 2 points. You might, but the thing is, all they have to do to stop that is to make the deadline the cut-off point and to make it clear which players, you know, on the website, which players are under 5% owned. And once the deadlines happen, that's it. If your player's 4.8% owned at deadline, then you are going to get that extra 2 points should they score 4 or more points in a year. Now I've in a game. Now I've run it through on the official website and had a look at a few players, and a lot of players they get like a extra 16 to 20 points extra in a season. You know, players like Kudos have probably scored 4 points or more in about 8 matches, so they get like an extra 16 points, which actually makes quite a bit of difference to a lot of these players. And it also rewards people for making different picks, you know, because at the moment you're just punished. You're just punished for picking differentials. You know, we all do it. You pick a differential on a gut feel and it goes wrong 9 times out of 10. And it's because they are suboptimal. You know, this is the optimal team right here, my team. And, you know, they're all obviously highly owned players because they are considered to be the best pretty much in the positions. But if you suddenly make an extra 2 points, well, like people like Kudos become an option, or other players, different defenders become an option. You know, you can get a clean sheet from a player from a good club who's got no attacking potential whatsoever. But if you give them an extra 2 points for a clean sheet, then they suddenly become very interesting alternatives. And this new rule, it has the effect of increasing the player base to pick from markedly, and I cannot see any real downside to it. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you can see what might happen. There's going to be a real live wire 4.8% owned player in a week, and Harry, Andy, all of them are all going to come on and go on about this brilliant player that's only 4.8% owned. Everyone will buy him. We'll get to near deadline and he won't be under 5% because everyone's bought the same player. So, you know, you're not going to be able to just copy what everybody else is doing, because then the player is going to be over 5% owned. You have to go and pick a genuine, proper differential on your own without any help from content creators, and be rewarded for it, you know, as you should be, peeps. And it's not a game breaker. You know, it is not going to suddenly make these useless players better than Salah or anything like that. It's just going to reward them 7 or 8 times a season when they get more than 4 points or more, and they get an extra 2 points. That's all. So you're not going to be able to just put all differentials in your team and expect to win FPL. But it is a nice little tweak to the scoring that is going to bring a lot of other players into consideration, especially I think players like Man City assets, you know, like Savinho, Doku. They're under 5%, and you get punished for picking them because they come on, they make a 1 point appearance, they don't play and all that type of thing. But if you reward them if they can get 4 points or more, then that does increase their desirability when they are actually playing, and kind of compensates you for the lack of minutes in a way. People like Jota, Diaz, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And like I said, I can't really see any downside in this rule, and I think it's great. I really do. I'm blown away by it, honestly. That's why I've come on, because it's just such genius level, simple thinking to come up with that idea, you know, because none of us did, and we've been racking our brains for years trying to find ways to increase the pickable amount of players, you know. So anyway, peeps, I've made a league, my leagues. Here we go. Look, I've made a league, and it's Trigger Talks. Why have I got 2? I already did one yesterday. Okay. So bear with, peeps, bear with. I'm going to get rid of one of these, and I'm going to put the link up in the chat so you can join the mini league, because this game doesn't start until the 15th of June. You know, you're going to be bored by then, and you're going to be ready for some fantasy. And we're going to play this. We're going to see who's going to win, and we're going to check out that new rule and see how we can make it work, because I think it's really, really brilliant. So which one shall I get rid of, peeps? I don't know if I can get rid of them, but I'll give you a link to one of these leagues in the chat anyway, and we'll see what's what. And I really hope they do bring this into FPL, because honestly, anything that widens the player base, anyone that just prevents everybody from copying the same players every week has got to be good, hasn't it? Has got to be good. And be brilliant if they brought this in. Brilliant. I don't know how I'll hold out high hopes, but it really would be fantastic. Anyway, peeps, I'm off now. You know, so like and subscribe. Enjoy this game week. You know, bring in your Evan Nielsen or your Welbeck or your Ben White, and that's about it, isn't it? Because, you know, you can't go for a differential because they're all suboptimal. You know, you want to be rewarded for bringing in a -5% player, and this new rule would in fact do that, wouldn't it? So fantastic, peeps. Anyway, I'll talk to you all later. You can't be saying that, you know, but I keep saying it is fantastic. Anyway, cheers for now then, peeps, and I'll talk to you all later.